Good morning, folks. Happy Wednesday. So yeah, last night I noticed that I had hey, these passwords have been compromised. Go change them. So I was like, oh, okay, no problem. I went and changed them, and the one of them was Facebook. No problem. I've got a new password. I just get around to ultimately changing all the passwords anyway, and so it's all good. So I did, and this morning I started up Restream, and it's like, oh god, there's no way I can get into. I was like, thought about that. Obviously, Restream would have to access Facebook for the password, and if I change the password, that freaked it out. And so I go into Facebook, and I'm like, oh yeah, I changed the password, and it's like, okay, but you can't do anything for 2 hours while we wait and make sure that it's really you. And I'm like, you know what? We weren't this diligent. Pepper. I ultimately got it all squared away, and we're fine, and here we are. But boy, that was the start this morning. I was like, well. All right. So, here we go. We got one of the things I was doing last night was I really wanted to add lightning. I've always felt that there was electricity crackling off of the engines when it comes out of in space. A lot of times, the things that I do here have, like some logical based thing in space. And I'm going to openly admit that I don't have any logic behind why I want electricity on this going crackle, 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 but I like it. It looks cool. Hi, Brent. Oh, hey, Brent. Cool things happened last night. I outlined and sort of squared away issue 2. So you can't comment on Facebook. So I think I'm having issues with Facebook because I'm not getting the that's what I think happened. I updated the password and now Facebook is totally flipped out, and I'm like, you weren't this flipped out about Pepper, but you're flipped out about me. I don't know what that's all about. So, and all I did was what they told me to do. They were like, hey, we accidentally leaked your password, so you should change it. And I'm like, thanks for making this my problem. So I did it, and now it's doing the okay, whatever. So if you're coming in on Facebook, you may not be able to say anything today, and that will be a bummer, and I'm very sorry about that. So anyway, okay, here we are. So yeah, yesterday, my dear friend Brent, we finished. Laying out issue 2. And so we've got that as the layout sheet. I need to do some more work on it. Like, we've got to figure out what the goal of each scene is. But we have all the points of what we want in the scene here. These are all the key points that we want to hit in each scene. And all of the... Yes, if anybody wants to comment on the show, go to YouTube and go to my GS Davis. So if I don't do this, Brent, before I'm done writing or inking episode 1, then we're going to have a gap between the two. If I do this before then we don't have a gap. I can just start pinning in after issue 2 when we complete pinning in issue 1. Otherwise, we take 3 or 4 weeks in between the two where I don't do any drawing. So, the problem with Mangaka is that we do it all. We write, we draw, we do all of it. And so all of it has to be in a workflow somewhere. or else, or else we won't have. Well, thanks for doing that, my friend. So anyway, so we're going to do. Besides, I kind of need a little bit of a break at the moment here because I'm slowing down on issue 1. I don't want to get in there, and I'm sort of feeling a little bit of resistance. I don't want to go back in, sort of thing. So this is good. I know exactly what's going on. I'm just staying. So here's the thing, though. When this is done, we will have 2. So the goal here is to have 1 episode, which is 2 issues, complete by May of 2023. What do you think? Think we can do it? I'm pretty sure. I mean, unless something horrible happens, which, goodness, I could. I think we're pretty safe. I'm not there yet. That's another place that I need to be in, and you're probably right. I should probably do that before the end of the week because we're going to do the Fort Collins Club on Saturday, so it's probably not a bad idea to do that, but not today. I actually am very interested in squaring away some of the problems in this that I just figured out last night, and talking them out helps. So here's the episode in its entirety. What I find interesting is if you look at the color codes on this and the color codes of this one, we've got a lot more broken up scenes here than we do here. It's a lot cleaner, right? So that means that this episode's going to run with longer scenes. Oh yeah. I'm pretty sure we can move on to episode 2 of this probably easily by NDK. I mean, I don't want to make promises because the summer, my family is free for the summer and they're off and moving around and doing stuff. So I'm not going to be able to really keep pushing like I've been pushing for the last couple of weeks through the summer, but we can give it a good shot. So my hope is that we can start working on episode 2 as soon as right around the world of NDK. Somewhere right around NDK. That's my battle plan. So we'll see how that goes. So, okay, I'm gonna switch pens because we're on apparently my lightning pen, which I can't rename, by the way, I discovered. That's really aggravating because it should be here. There we go. Now we have lightning. Yeah. Summer trips, family fun, that kind of stuff. All that crap. It's not crap. It's shocking. Lightning. But I like it, so I'm going to keep it. I'm going to go ahead and switch to my G pen because we're writing and doing writing stuff. So, all right, let me explain to you the story because every time I say something, or every time I talk about this, I get a cleaner view of what this story should say and do. Like the last time I went through it and explained it to Brian last night, I cleared a whole bunch of scenes that didn't need to be there. Okay, scene 1. I've been seeing this one since the beginning. We've got Alex on a skateboard here in Arvada, going through getting ice cream, doing things that girls do, right? Then all of a sudden, she starts seeing the cataclysm at the end of the war, which destroyed the earth, sort of thing. And she has to run for her life, but doesn't. Then she wakes up in med lab. Okay. Yeah, it's an old trope. It's an old used trope, but I like it because I can use it to show, A, what happened at the end of the Titan War, and B, it shows an important thing, which is the time glass or the shattered mirror sort of effect we've got that I use to indicate that broken time has occurred. Which is not just broken time, it's broken space-time, which is part of the problem. So anyway, wakes up in MedLab, where we have Mayrel, and we have Navin, and we have Alex. So here are the key things that we need to do in this scene. We need to inform everybody that she's from the 21st century. She needs to talk about the fact that Mayrel's words are not in sync with her mouth, and that Navin's is. So he's speaking native English. And he has to explain that's because he's an AI, and all he had to do was just load English. The other thing I want to point out here is that Deus words don't translate. So when Mayrel says, we've got an old Deus Thati tradition of snurgle, snurgle, bleep, 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 blop, 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 which means do, 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 then you want that to, Alex is not stupid. She's going to say, well, why didn't it translate that if it translates all languages? Then you want to make sure that I have a scene that some phrase that mentions that, because there's still stress between the Deus Thati and all of the other cultures. And that's a thing that plays later in the story. So those are the things that are in this scene. We have sort of a scene kind of rolling along, and we're kind of doing that. Okay, cool. Then we have a transition frame. So we show, because we haven't actually we haven't shown what's going on. So we have the kittiwake on the ground at the main capital, putting ashore supplies. And while we're at it, we're going to cut closer to the back portion near the tails, which is where Chang's meeting room is. And we're going to be then have Chang's meeting room, which is a new set that nobody has seen yet, but that's okay. That's the point, right? We're going to show as much of the ship as we can. Senator and Chang. The important thing here is that the Commonwealth wants Moment. And they have been, he's been uncovering a movement on Moment to switch to the Commonwealth and things like that. But he also believes that the Commonwealth is going to take Moment in some way. And so you were saying that before, except that the translator should be online right away, which is the only reason that I think it's cool. And maybe actually a different version of that would be to say, no, we have a translator. This is really what we sound like. And then that's what we sound like in real life, sort of thing. That might be a cool thing. And so, but the translator should be up and running right away. And even if it isn't, Navin would be speaking in English because he's already figured out we know what she's saying. I mean, Navin even has picked an accent to speak in. So, I mean, but it's a good idea. I get what you're trying to say. And I think the device that you're using can be used, but I think we're going to use it somewhere else. So like she gets up in the morning and pods out to the bathroom or whatever, and didn't put in her little earpiece, and so everybody is speaking in Tamabeshi, and she's just like, I hate the world, and doesn't care. Sort of mimicking our coffee situation earlier with Chang. So I think it's a great idea. I love the idea, and I love that device as a storytelling device, but I think that's probably going to move it. Stop. Okay. Here we are. The Commonwealth wants Moment. The next thing we want to say is they can't leave, though. The problem, of course, is that they're the only ship here right now to help the rescue effort. So they can't leave. If nothing else, the replicators are online, and they need those. And they're maybe the only ones who have replicators. So, okay, so They recommend dispatching the Eagle, which is a freighter in system, to halt and hold, which is on the other side of the wall, 6.5 light years, but it'll take the Eagle 3 days. It only takes 4 hours for those ships to come back on military engines, but that's a cargo ship. It doesn't have military engines. So it's going to take it 3 days to get there. And that's probably the best that we can do. So once the 4 destroyers come in from Harleton Hold, then they're not needed, and they can move on to the next destination where they get the Senator's yacht, which is not yacht, but a courier. Then the next scene is the princess, and she's on duty, kind of digging around in the wreckage. And this is where they find the time glass. So they find a shard of time glass. It's the same kind of stuff that we found when the Earth was destroyed, right? One of the guys that's there, they're like, have you seen it before? And he goes, yeah, this is the stuff they had on Earth. And then we get the first kind of, if we have this stuff, if we possess this stuff, it'll bring the Weir. And like, everybody's like, oh man, don't mention the Weir. That's just terrible. So we get sort of the hint that the Weir are a boogeyman in the story somewhere down the road. They're not important at this point in time. They're not part of the story. I just want them to be tapped in. We're doing the same thing as they did with the Reavers, which is in Firefly. We're tapping in that there's a boogeyman out there. We're not going to meet them for a while, but they're here. And then on page 16 is the final page of this chapter, and we have a Commonwealth destroyer inbound, and the Kittiwake is dusting off. So they're just going to leave Princess on the ground, right? Which is going to make the Marines so happy. They love that. They're going to think that's awesome. Anyway, come back from that. We've got a splash, which is the Commonwealth destroyer versus the Kittiwake, and you'll get to see that the Commonwealth destroyer is a destroyer and the Kittiwake is a corvette. So it's visually obvious those two are not the same size. Last night we had also, as a side note, we had an idea. Yeah. That's exactly what's happening. And the kids were telling her the Marines. So I pick on your Marines so much. Right? Anyway. Okay. So one of the things that we discussed last night, which we think is cool, is everybody came up with such good joke names, not joke names, but I see Miranda's going in the front door. So many joke names, sort of things where they're not jokes, but great names that I've decided that what we're going to do is subtitle each chapter. So each issue has 2 chapters, and each episode has 2 to 3 or maybe even 4 issues, depending on how big of an issue it is, or how big of an episode it is. So that way we can kind of get a good subdivision. So each chapter now has a chapter title, where I use the chapter title that you had come up with, which was Moment's Notice or Momentary Chaos, or in this instance, the 2 chapters that are here is A Moment is an Eternity, and then chapter 4 is An Eternity is But a Moment, right? This fits because the first chapter of this seems to be very long-winded. There's a lot of just sort of big, long, open scenes with nothing going on. Not nothing, but plot going on. So it's slow. Whereas the second part is really intense. So as soon as they face off with a Commonwealth destroyer, the destroyer is huge compared to the Kittiwake. The Kittiwake's tiny. Even the ones that we've got on the Unity side, there's a box on the back of the destroyer, which is a landing pad for a corvette. It's like it's this little box on the back, and that's a landing pad, so the Corvette can hitch a ride if it needs to. Okay, so we start out here. Got an open page where the first part is the Kittiwake coming up out of Moment, and then cut to the bridge, sound battle stations, and everybody settling in. This scene has two pieces to it. It's either we've got to make sure we have the Commonwealth Bridge though, because we alert Moment Control, and did the Eagle get out of the system? Yes. And then what's the gravitic report on the DD? Because we want to know. We want to show that they're taking gravitic reports and stuff like that. And then a tactical map shows up in the center of the bridge, which shows the system and everything like that, and holograms. Always important because we've got to kind of show that when in real space, we've got holograms. Then this line goes at the very end because this scene needs to cycle through. And then once we kind of get that, then she decides to raise them. And then this is the captain, whatever, from the DD, whatever, and we haven't randomly rendered that yet. They're just here to render A, right? Don't get worked up. Aren't you kind of small? I want to use all of those terms. Like the kind of small thing is, either a taunt or they're picking on, I don't know, whatever it is. You can't tell whether he's talking about Chang being kind of small or the Kittiwake being kind of small. So the destroyer thinks this is weird that Moment has jumped in time, but as soon as they clear, we've got to make sure we've got kind of rendering aid my ass. They must have something to do with it, right? I kind of like the idea of a red herring, thinking that the Commonwealth did whatever happened to Moment. But B, it's pretty accurate to think that they're both going to blame each other for whatever happened at Moment, right? And it's still 4 more days before the Eagle gets to Harleton Hold. So they've got to face off alone against this destroyer for 4 more days. Then it says they're no match, but we can hurt them a lot. Implying that the best they could probably do is just die trying to beat them. Then we cut back to medical. The doc says, it'll be okay. And Alex says, you don't know that, but it will. And that was creepy. Like, why did she say that? Right? Navin shows up then at this point in time and says, hey, do you know what this is? And shows the time glass. Is this yours? And she goes, no, why? Well, we found it down on the planet. And she gets kind of a pause there, and she goes, you need help, don't you? He goes, yeah, but it's space stuff. Nothing you need to worry about. And so, because up until now, we've kind of been, aren't you? Yeah, exactly. Aren't you a little short to be a stormtrooper? That's totally what I was at. You need help, don't you? Says Alex. And yeah, but it's space stuff. And then she goes, I know how to do that. Get you help. So then we cut back down to the planet. And we've got our Marines, and they're like, man, we're stuck here. All the cool stuff's happening up in orbit, and we're stuck here. And one of the Marines says, if shit goes down, we may be the only Unity people to hold down Moment. All 6 of us. So just be aware, guys. It may be just us 6 against an entire destroyer. And then they get a message, and it's, you want us to do what? So then we cut, because of course it's funnier if you don't know what happens next. So we cut back up to the bridge, and it's later, and we've got some kind of transition to show that it's later. The senator says, hey, if I die here, I'm the only one that knows what the Commonwealth wants to do here. And so many people are wiped out on Moment, and that I was tracing this whole thing. I'm the only one that knows what's going on. If I die, nobody knows. I just need to add that pressure to you, Captain. I just need you to know that, Captain. We're all counting on you. Good luck. Anyway. And so then Chang says, hey, what's our time? And obviously a timer is counting down of some sort. And so, Bennett says, "We got 5 minutes left, sir." And Chang's like, "I guess raise them then." And then the Commonwealth captain says, "I've got good news and I've got bad news. The good news is we can totally help now that there's no Unity units in this system." Chang says, "We're here." The captain goes, "That's the bad news." Right? So now it's become kind of one of those, well, that sucks, right? Because now it's clear that the Commonwealth has gotten permission to destroy the Kittiwake and take over Moment. So at that very moment, though, that's 5 minutes. That's when Chang goes, now, okay. And the captain gets a puzzled look on the Commonwealth side, and Chang goes, "Or I have bad news and bad news?" Sort of thing. And 4 Unity destroyers show up from Squadron 44. And, "You're very clever. How did you get to the other system? And it doesn't matter. Leave." Okay, so they leave. So now we have the epilogue here, which is Chang has coffee, and this is in the forward lounge, which is that section that's the front of the bridge with the 4 windows on top. And so it's Bennett and Chang talking. Commonwealth Captain, "This sucks." So we see here in this scene, we see 4 Unity destroyers, a hospital ship, and the Kittiwake. So clearly the Kittiwake is not needed here at all. Situation is under control. So now we can take the senator to his courier. And then Bennett says, "Well, we need to make sure in here we won't have a phone booth until Spire Station." So, right, good news and bad news. We can help. If there are no Unity units here, that's the good news. So Chang now has coffee. We need to make sure we talk about the phone booth at Spire Station, the entangled pair communication system. So, right. Well, I like it better when. Yeah, I like it better if he just says, "Well, that's the bad news," because that's all implied, right? Give credit to my readers a little bit more here. We have a long time to workshop that, so when that scene comes up, we can keep working on it until we feel good about it. Okay, so the targets here on this last scene, we have to make sure we talk about the quantum entangled pair phone booth. So she can't report in to Bellatrix until they get to Spire Station. Yeah, until ink time. We've got time to talk about it until ink time. So then Bennett says, "Well, what are we going to do about the girl?" And Chang says, "I don't really know," right? Because that's important. And our last scene then is Alex in the VIP room, where she's sitting there, and behind her is the window, and the ship goes to in space. She looks out, and she looks back down, kind of like this, like, wow, there's a lot of weight going on here. But doesn't look surprised or inspired or shocked or anything like that. It's kind of important. So, and that's the end of the episode. So, what do we think? We can workshop all of this stuff, but we've got a couple of things here where we've got to kind of work the scenes and make sure they're working toward a goal. So I have a lot of things that got to be said, but we've got to make sure that the characters have a reason for doing the scenes. So we've got a couple of them that are important. Like, here's the first one, Mad Lab in scene 2. And Brian was saying that issue 2 feels more like a normal comic book than issue 1. Issue 1 feels like the beginning of a story, television episode. So there's a lot of quick cuts and amazing things going on. And if we have too much space that we're eating up here, then lots of exposition, not a lot of action. There were a lot more scenes in the original. I added a couple more twists to the story. Do you feel like it's too exposition-y? Do you think we need more thingies happening? Because I kind of, what was it? There's a saying from somebody which was, strip your story down to the very basics and then draw the hell out of what's left. And I like that, but there is such a thing as too far. So I'm open if you've got other things you think need to be in here. If you think it needs to be a little bit more complicated, bent up, twisted, whatever is the word we're looking for. So if you've got ideas, I'm up. Because we got a lot going on here with a lot of action and a lot of things moving around here. Also, we should check in, right? So let's check in on this one, right? I'm going to add a new layer. And here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take this green and we're going to look. Okay, so page 1, page 1. Let's see, multiply 50%. Okay, recommendations on that one. Page 2, page 2. 3 is not complete, but 4, 3 is not complete, but 4 is. Can you give me an example of what we're talking about? 5 is 2. 6 is. Because I don't know what changes we're referring to. And this one's done too. And then nobody is done until way down here. This one's done. Oh, that's a good idea. I see what you're saying. None of these pages are ready. Okay. That's our check-in so far. So in the Commonwealth Captain, at the end of the "It wasn't good news for you," I see what you're saying. But that doesn't necessarily change. I mean, because like all we've got here is what's in that scene. I mean, we could certainly make that work by saying, why is this pen? Right. I mean, that's not a problem. I don't think that'll be an issue at all. Um, but that doesn't. So, like I said, that added this right here, right? So that didn't change the scene. That's in the next step. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. But I'm looking at this step. What do you think? Which is it okay that we only have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, that's not eight, nine scenes in this? Or do we feel like we need more scenes? Because compared to this one, where we've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 scenes. That's what I'm saying. We got 9 versus 15. The first issue is very weighty and a lot of cutting back and forth. Brian's recommending that we hold at the lower rate of scenes like we've gotten in the second part of the issue. But I feel like we had a lot of stuff we had to establish in the first issue that kind of needed to be kind of gone through. So maybe that's okay. Maybe I didn't do anything wrong per se. Also, these aren't set up by scene. These are set up by set, because we had to build all these sets. Anyway, okay, but that's what I'm after, because the next one is, let's go ahead and draw it out, do all the sketches here. Yeah. Exactly. So it should be okay. I think we're okay. What I'm trying to do is just make sure we don't make mistakes that are going to require us to tear out pages. You know what I mean? Those suck. I hate that. I try to avoid that as much as possible. So I do a lot of double checks before we hit that point. I'm not panicking or freaking out or anything like that. I'm just double checking and making sure that before we get, too far down the road, because it is kind of a sad thing to have to do that. It sucks. Okay, cool. So the next thing I want to do is contemplate how we are on this one. So we'll bring this out to the outside sides. Close up that. That's exactly what we're doing. And I think from this point forward, we should be able to smoothly have 9 to 11 scenes per issue, as maybe even 7 to 11 scenes per issue. That's a good question. So I'm just out here kind of. So Nick Macari is a comic writer, and he has a lot of cool stuff on his webpage. But one of the things he does here is this sort of thing, where he does a breakdown on what scenes he's talking about here and things like that. So, um, there's no scene quota that must be filled in each issue, which that's true. I'm just trying to make sure that it doesn't go too fast and it doesn't go too slow. You know what I mean? Okay. I break scenes of the following length: micro, less than a page; 6 panels or less than a page with a ton of, or on a page with a ton of panels. Short scenes are 1 to 2 pages, standard 3 to 5, long are 6 to 10, extended are 11 plus. So by that, let's just check to make sure here what we've got. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages. So this is a standard size page, or a standard size scene. 1, 2, 3, 4, also a standard size scene. 1, 2, 3, standard size. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sum of 5. Okay, good. So there's nothing wrong with the size of these as far as Nick says. They're all roughly the standard size scenes. 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There's one page. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So he says, break up really long scenes. Anytime it runs over 5 pages, see if it can be shortened or broken up and intercut with scenes without losing any increasing dramatic effect. Okay, cool. Short, standard, short, micro, long, 9 pages. That's a battle. Short, standard. Okay. And he's got 7 scenes here. Okay, so looking at kind of the way that Nick scripts out a comic, which, by the way, I'm exampling this more for the benefit of the show and less for the benefit of me. I'm just checking through everything to make sure everything is good. I would probably do this in about 10 minutes. So this is, how he talks about breaking out a scene. Flashbacks and montages, sort of thing. And if you're using panel slug lines. Oh, okay, yeah, I see that. I never do, because the only person reading my script is me. So when we talk about Nick's position here, he's a writer who writes the script and then hands it to an artist team who then has to produce it without him being there, without him talking. So a lot of the things that Nick's talking about in script writing, and actually I was talking the other day to, you am reading it. Well, you were reading it, yes, but I'm drawing it. So I don't need to write it in proper mode so that the artist can read it, obviously. Interestingly, I lost a viewer. It must be boring talking about Nick McCarty. Anyway, discussing how comic pages go down. But anyway, I like this guy because he gives sort of a nice rundown of how big things should be. Might as well. So it's you I lost. Okay. One of the things I've been meaning to do for a long time is take these. Now that I know how to screenshot stuff, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do something. Because I've been meaning to do this for a long time. You're just trying to guess what I'm doing. I'm going to real quickly catch this. And what we're trying to do is, Nick was talking about a couple of these things that are very important, right? Like the size, what it is, and what his size of pages are. And I like his example because this just gives me a check. Mostly because last night, when I was writing these things, I felt uncomfortable when my scenes extended past 5 pages. But I couldn't verify why. So this is good for me to just have to say, hey, once you're done setting up a page, and once you're done checking everything in, just go back and double check to make sure you have everything within reason. Now, I'm very big on this because I know that smarter people than me have done writing of comics in a way that doesn't affect how I create a comic. For example, doesn't make any difference to me whether my scene is 3 pages or 5 pages. I just put more pictures in, or I put more important dialogue in, or I get good reaction shots from my characters, or whatever. I don't care. So if 5 pages is an acceptable scene, then I'm good, right? And what we might find over here, we'll just say Yatsuda, where we have a master, even though this is still her junior work, we may find in here that, she puts 5 pages in per scene, or, right? So, like, if we were to look here, there's a scene in a ramen shop. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? And that's one scene. The next scene then is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? 1, 2. So she's running about 4 pages per scene on average. So looking at how Rumiko Takahashi sets up her stuff, she's doing about 4 pages per. Looking at Takageorgie. Because there's no show without George, right, George? You know that, right? There's no show without you. You are the important person here. We all know this. Okay. So I feel like this still fits, right? Because 3 to 5 and 4 fits right in the middle. So Rumiko Takahashi is running a whole bunch of standard 4-page scenes. That seems to be working just fine. So I'm good. I feel like I'm running here-ish in this range. Still kind of fast scenes, but it does mean that issue 1 is running pretty fast, and issue 2 slows down to a normal comic book pace, which I think still fits just fine. Save as. We're gonna save this into my guy the artist directory as Nick QuACk. Somebody delete me. I don't know who that was. I don't know what that was. Oh. Oh no, everybody needs to know. It's very important that you drop everything to find out that we've updated Google Voice. Thank you. I'm glad you interrupted my work to tell me that. We should be getting Brian pretty shortly here. All right, the next thing I want to do is actually part of the workshop here. So we're going to workshop the scenes in here because I actually need to think about these scenes in a unit. So we're going to workshop the scenes. Again, all of this stuff generally takes me about 10 minutes or 15 minutes. But I kind of want to also record for all posterity how I do this so that I'll remember it, so that I won't screw it up later. Right? So we have, is it in the design book? The wheel of scene. I want to talk about the wheel of scene. Okay. Find it. Where did I put that book thingy? Design book. There it is. I think this design map can be overwritten. Because I don't think that design map is as good as this design map. I like this design map a whole lot better. So I'm dumping that old one. That's fine. I mean, really, honestly, we kind of need to. Oh, I know why. I'm in the wrong folder. I'm waiting for creating stories. Okay, so there is a cycle called a scene structure. And we're going to talk about it and apply it to these scenes that we just built. Okay? Open with Clip Studio Paint. The wheel of scene. Folder check. It's called the scene and sequel. Okay, so each scene, when you build a scene, has a goal, a conflict, a disaster, a reaction, a dilemma, and a decision. Not all of them fit this. But and it's a matter of perceiving it in the correct light. Like, just because we put a tag on something that says disaster doesn't necessarily mean that, literally one of the characters has to die off or something. So here's the analyzing the dragon scene from Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, right? So the goal is keep anyone from finding out Hagrid's illegal dragon, right? This is the scene. The conflict is they must sneak out and get the dragon to the tallest tower by midnight. The disaster is they forgot invisibility cloak and then get caught by Filch, right? The reaction is Harry feels guilty for losing so many house points. Okay. The dilemma is Harry reflects on the situation, realizes Gryffindor hates him, because that's the goal of the scene, and then the decision is decides not to meddle in things that are of his own, not of his own business. So, like I said, in this instance, the disaster is he forgot his cloak. Not all of the scenes are going to fit this wheel, but it makes for more interesting writing if some of them try to fit this wheel. So I do a check on this on the scenes. So, like, for example, here we've got in the hero's journey, this is sort of the real world to transition here. Every character is sort of doing their own personal hero's journey. So this one, Alex is skating on her skateboard. She's happy as a clam. She's doing what she's supposed to do. She's, whatever. She's out getting ice cream at the ice cream shop. There's actually a really good ice cream shop in Old Town. And so we're going to kind of reference it, although I'm going to change its name so that we're not using it directly, but you get the idea. So we will we'll be doing that, yada yada yada. Hero's journey shows that the character is in her real world, and then the world changes. And then she's in the changed world. So this scene is okay as it is because it has one specific goal, and that is to show that that's going on. But here is where we have a problem, and this is where I'm going to try to apply the wheel. And it's because right now what we have is we've got a bunch of characters sitting around going, isn't this cool? This is cool. Isn't this cool? Yeah, this is cool. Isn't this cool? Yeah, this is cool. Isn't this cool? And that's like, there's no point. Like, there's no mission to them. They're just sitting around yakking for 5 pages. It's like, well, so let's look and see if we can't apply a scene wheel to it. I usually only apply goal, conflict, and decision, right? So this sort of section all kind of ends up in the same clump. So let's talk about, what do we want this scene to be? Because I am not 100% sure. So somebody has to have a goal in here. Either Mayrell has to have a goal, or Navin has to have a goal, or Alex has to have a goal. Alex doesn't have a goal right now. She's confused. So we can rule out Alex. Navin is like being the translator, so I feel like he doesn't have really a goal. So the only one who has a goal here is Mayrell. So she's the one who's got a goal. And her goal is what? As a Deus Thati, she's going to want the story, because that's their religion, so to speak, is stories. So stories are the thing that's important. She's going to want a story. But since we are idle at this moment, this is their off time. They're just kind of there and hanging. So her goal could be, maybe her goal is just getting the information. So you can see what I'm kind of doing here. Mayrell wants to get the story, right? Alex is reluctant. So there's your dilemma or disaster or whatever. And actually, if we keep going through the cycle on this scene evolution, right? We got a conflict. Alex doesn't want to tell anybody because she's afraid, right? In this instance, you may have a disaster. The disaster might be that Alex just shuts down and doesn't say anything. Right? Maybe that's the thing. So well, Alex is reluctant. What's going on in this scene? What's happening here? We've got somebody who's literally suffering from like all kinds of bizarre trauma that nobody understands because she's not expressing herself very well. I mean, I'm loath to get to the point where Alex starts breaking down into tears. That would definitely be a disaster for the scene. Like, oops, we pushed her too hard. That sucks. But I mean, she's legitimately pretty screwed up at this point in time. Yeah, maybe that is what happens. I mean, maybe Alex starts crying. I mean, she's 14. And she's had an awful lot of things put on her. So that's the disaster. Looking here, we're here. The reaction. Probably panic, right? Wow. And Mayrel panic. That's the reaction. But the decision needs to be from Alex, because then they decide to leave, right? Because that's what I would do, right? I'm sitting there and I'm like, hey, you want to tell me about what's going on? I mean, you're displaced by 500 years. And then she starts crying. I'd be like, whoa, okay, you know what? Why don't you relax for a little while? No. But the decision probably needs to be a shift. We need to think about the way that mental health is handled here in Unity. Top-down view, kind of looking at the way that this is working. Here, in our current society, if you start breaking down and having a complete breakdown, our response is, whoa, right? But that's not necessarily the best response. Like, that's not what should be happening. Leaving somebody alone is kind of like punishment. So, why don't we listen? So what that's doing is that's putting all of these things in reverse order. That's what it is. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 is that order. That's the way this works. So that's okay, good, because this scene was not, it had no structure. It was just all over the place. Nobody was going anywhere. The characters had no idea what they were doing. Nobody knew what was happening. It was like legitimately nobody knew what was going on. Okay, so this is the way this scene's going to play out. Meryl wants, that's her goal. She wants to get the story on all of this, not for any nefarious purpose. She's Deus Thati lived by the story. So she just wants the story because it's cool, right? Hey, tell me your story. I'm all about your story. Alex is like, I don't have a story really yet. I'm just a normal kid, you know. What do I know? Then she's like, but you're, so all right here, she deflects by doing, you know, 1, 2, and 3 in rapid succession right here, right? Then she starts crying, right? And then this sequence happens right here, and then we've got this. Why don't we listen? Tell us what you want to say. Don't let us push you into something you don't want to talk about. That's all right. Bio break's fine. I'm just putting the wheel on here to help structure out the scene a little bit to make it fit. Because I didn't know where I was going to head with this. But putting the wheel on it, right? So I applied the wheel and we got a better take on it. I may not be 100% on board with this yet. We'll have to see. It still feels a little off to me. So one of the things that's extraordinarily frustrating for me as a creator is that things feel correct or don't feel correct. And there's no clearly defined, oh, well, obviously this line is out of place or this sequence between characters doesn't feel right. It's one of the reasons why when you give an idea to me, sometimes I check it against that does it feel right or not. And sometimes you've given ideas and I'm like, that's not going to work. And then I can't tell you why. I just know it doesn't. You know, and it's like so aggravating to me because there's no way to, if you don't know why, you can't really apply something when it doesn't work, right? I can't put something in there. But I can feel like the flow of the story. Does that make any sense? So this still isn't quite there. It flows better, but it isn't quite there. So we'll have to come back to this scene. I can already tell, because it's not quite up to speed, which is okay. We'll get there. So moving down to the next scene. This one's pretty easy. In fact, I think it pretty much is already built. Goal. Senator wants to leave. Right? He wants to bug out. The thing is, I'm not going to use the classic Star Trek trope. The senator understands they can't leave. They understand that. So he's the one that comes up with, because the disaster of this, if you look at the wheel, the conflict, I guess, is Chang doesn't want to leave. Right? So that's the conflict. Ready for rendering blue lining what? The story? No, we're not ready for that yet. Oh, you mean to go over to the other side and do some blue lining on that? We'll do some of that, yeah. So, as an interesting side note, we have the ability right now to actually see the entire process of how I go through writing. So the conflict, the disaster, really isn't much of a disaster because they've got a solution. So this becomes the conflict and the disaster. So we look at this and say, dilemma, decision. So I can skip it. So it's goal, conflict, decision on this one. It's easy. There's no sequel. So send the eagle. There we go. Makes that easy. Because see, here's another one. So we've got goal. Someone's come up with a better name than Time Glass, but that's all right. This is another one. This is a mess. The goal of the scene is meet the DD. Dilemma. Big ship. Disaster. No match. Decision. QuACk. And the result is just, because I feel like this is kind of aid. And then this one, we've got kind of two pieces to this. Because there's no goal really here. But the dilemma is already in response here, which is no aid, really. Disaster is sacrifice and decision. And stop. Okay. Just thinking some of these things through, right? The goal here is nabbing. We've got 3 pages, so this could be, what does Navin want? More info about time glass. The disaster is easy on this one. It's not hers. A big disaster, but his goal's ruined, which was, can she give him more information on that? No. So the regroup on this, she can help. Any trouble? Decision. She can help. Okay. This one's easy. This is just a response to an earlier scene. This is a continuation of an earlier scene. This is the decision on the earlier scene. So, goal, Chang wasting time. Disaster. And I have to be good with this because this is the one we're going to have to spend the most time thinking through. This scene here. Where's Brian? Oh yeah, we're designing stuff. I'm noticing that noticing that we haven't had anybody else joining us on this show except for Brian and me in like 2 weeks. And so I just went into the QuaCk internal forum and said, so I'm noticing that, as an accountability thing, this is supposed to be an accountability thing. because I'm noticing I haven't seen Colton. I mean, he was here like once last week, but I haven't seen him. And we're doing 2 shows a day, so there's like, there's a lot of opportunity for folks to join me. They want to join me, and that's the whole point of this, is accountability. I feel like this scene actually is fine. I don't know why I'm doing the cycle on that. Okay, I feel like we're okay here. The real ones that I have a problem with are this one and this one. Everything else seems pretty straightforward. I don't think I need to apply the wheel on those. So we can go on ahead and drop the wheel from that. Our scene check is complete. I went on ahead and just colored green the pages that are complete here in issue 1. So those scenes are done. They may need fixes, or we may need to go back and adjust them as time goes on. But those are complete pages. I actually think we are moments from completing that page. And a lot of pages in here are pretty close, so we can just do that. I don't know why we're not as far along on this side as we should be. But we have about 30 minutes left. Let's go do some magic with 3D. I'm going to go ahead and save this. This checklist tells me where we are on pages. We want ultimately all of these pages to be green, since they are obviously going to pop about all over the place, and it's going to be all over the place, and everything is going to be everywhere. And I think we're going to call this guy good too, so I'm going to go ahead and save him. And this is how I feel like we've gotten somewhere. This is where my scenes look solid, they look clean, they look like I'm coming up with something good. Now we can start spreading them out across the pages here and putting them in as assets to get an idea of where this episode is going to be. It is interesting. There has been a discussion numerous times on the discussion of what the difference is between Brian's and my way of doing things. We're going to do a new square. We're going to do 6,000 pixels each. Resolution of I really don't care. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make an ellipse on this line. I'm going to make it red, which won't matter in gray, but I don't want to redo this twice. So I'm going to hit Shift. It gives me a perfect circle. Okay. Go. It gives us a red circle. Take the ellipse. I'm going to move in up to here. Same thing. I'm going to just take this red and do this. What in the hell are you doing? That's what. Select. And we're going to take my pen. Right, we're going to just we're going to do that. All right, come along here, and we're actually going to open this up like so. I'm going to do this. too. Okay, we're gonna do this. I don't want to pull this off. Oh, I know what I'm gonna do. There we go. Okay. So we're gonna go on ahead and I'm gonna take this ellipse, do this, and what we're gonna do is we're going to take brush shape. We're gonna make it dots, like so. Delete on a new layer. And do this. Wow, the dots are too small. Okay. And come out here, around there, about halfway, thereabouts. We're gonna do this. And this is gonna be this. And what we've got now is a small dotted line to go in here. So now when we take this, we're going to take this guy now, and we're going to illustrate how far off course moment is. Right, so here is the center of this guy. We're just going to say here. Right, that's how far off course moment was. So, because of the fact that they're little round spheroids, I can actually do something like this and get a better, cleaner, rather than that sort of view, and do this. Go right here too. Like so, right? And that just indicates that the orbit is off by that much, right? That's actually significant. So this is the orbital change in the way that that it was working for moment, and where moment went when moment decided to not went anymore. Because we're going to talk about like the jump in the planetary operation. One of the scenes that we need to talk about is the fact that the other planets didn't move and that nothing else moved in the system, which means that all of the gravity in the system is screwed up. It's going to be a big deal. So we're going to go ahead and just merge these two together, because the next thing we want to do is indicate that this is where it should have been. And we're going the wrong direction around the orbit guy. It's moved to here. We're just giving sort of the indication that. Right. Okay, see you in about 10 to 15. Hopefully by then we'll have this hologram ready. nice even. There we go. And now we will add some oh crap stuff. Indicate that they're freaked out. That's just so I have a good idea of where my center line is so that I can do things that make some sense. Like this should indicate where that occurred. Right, so it's giving an indicator alarm here. We'll get some indicator graphics going. Indicate, oh crap. We want this to be very clear when we do. We want to show that, oh, they're alarmed that we're off by many days off the center, right? We don't know how many days we've jumped. I don't have any dice. I do have dice. I'm going to take this 20-sider right here. This here 20-sider. We're going to see how many days off moment is. 14. That's maybe not where that looks more than 14. We don't even know how many days moment has, like in its system. Like how many days does moment have? Hey man, this is the gamer way of answering this question. I'm just saying. Don't knock the gamer. That's the gamer's fault. Right? Gamer way of answering the question. How many days has it taken for this? One says 18, one says 90. 90 days seems a little bit more accurate. It's about, yeah, I'm going with 90. Yeah, that's 4. You're not helping. That's 15. I'm okay with that. And we'll move over to Tamabeshi. We're going to need Tamabeshi for this. And we're going to need it at a much larger font. Let's say 240. And we're going to come over here. Really? And now that we have the ability to use computational power, we might as well use computational power. It also shows that we have the ability to come back down onto this guy right here. And then, since we're having fun doing this, new master layer. I'm going to go ahead and do the pizza slice thing. And now I want pizza. All right. Because we don't actually need to show that part there, just this part as part of the hologram. So what we're going to do is this is going to be a hologram that's going to pop up in the middle of the bridge. We need this for my 3D program to render out what the hologram looks like. So we're going to do that real quickly here. Merge all of this together in one big mess. Right, that right now, we're going to go with this, right? And then we're going to duplicate it. What was I doing? Does anybody remember what I was doing? I don't remember what I was doing. All right, here we go. We saturate this until it gets luminosity down until we get to black on that one and 50% on this one, gray. Okay, so what we're really trying to do here is this, right? This gives us a 50% gray there and black everywhere else. Now this is going to be the map that goes with this. So what's going to happen is this is going to become the transparency map. So I'm going to flatten that out. We're going to do this nifty effect called invert reverse gradient. Okay? So that just turned it into black and white. In a transparency map, anything that's transparent is black. Anything that's not transparent is white. So we're setting this up so that what will be transparent, it'll effectively do this, right? That's what we're after. But of course, the program that we built this in was built prior to that. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to save as, right? And this is a thing. We're going to go into Matrix Rising. Please set prop ships. New folder. We're going to make a new folder, and this folder is going to be called 1, 2, 3, 4 holograms. Legitimately, I don't know what else to call this, but we've got a number of them that are going to be coming up here. We've got to figure this out pretty quickly here. So this is moment transparency, and then this one I'm going to do this the other way. It doesn't really matter at this point in time what we do on this one. We're just going to want this here to make this kind of work. I'm going to save as. This is the moment system error. And when we deal with things like we're trying to show a hologram that shows what's going on with the planet, we're going to actually do this from a different point of view. At this point in time, I'm going to take the Corvette out. We're going to shrink this guy down to maybe only 2,000. 1000%. Put him right here, and that'll make it a lot easier to deal with. So in the center, there we go. Right, now we can probably make him, I don't know, 1000%, and that still makes him big. So we've got moment here, and this version of moment shows the fires and stuff like that, so we kind of want to use that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this guy. I'm going to do this, and when we do, we're going to take this guy here, and I'm going to do a trick. And we're going to recognize that moment is not in the right place by doing some little tricks here. For one, I've already got, we've got maps of moment, show moment without this is a big map, and it threatens always to crash the system, so we've got to be kind of careful with this. Take off layer 3, take off the clouds. In fact, all we really need is the original line work on this. And we're going to do a new raster layer here. Okay, so I'm going to take this original line work, and we're going to duplicate it because I don't want to ruin the original line work, right? So we're going to take the original line work out here, and we're going to call this red line work. Take this, we're going to apply to connected pixels only? No. So we're going to select everything black. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to set our pen to red. We're going to go to outline selection. We're going to go to 25 pixels and draw on border. Watch this. There we go. Now we have all of the stuff on here outlined in red. So that's what we've got. It shows all the continents in red. Okay. Open. If we go into sets and props, I don't think that's what I want. Shared resources, templates. This is what we have. Sphere. And this is a sphere. I'll copy it here. I'm going to put it on top. Take it then, and we are going to transform, retransform. I'll take this guy out to here. Okay. Gives it a second. Well, it completely flips out. I've lost everything as far as viewership goes. One person on Twitch, which I kind of wonder if that's a bot. Okay. So now we've taken this guy here, and what we're going to do is do this. We're going to just go We know the equator is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, 18, 20, 22, so it's 11 in. So this is the equator, right? In here. Okay. 30. If you hit shift on Clip Studio Paint, it goes straight and doesn't. Right? That doesn't look like that's right. Okay. Now all we're really doing here is making it so that when we have this, that one's already done, so we don't need to worry about that one. So you recognize we've got what? I mean, it's 6. So that's it's going to be way too much time doing this. Right. That should give us a planetary grid, and we'll do a few things to indicate some highlight points here and there. Right, and then we'll do that, and then we'll load up Tamarbeshi again, but this time we're going to do it probably out of it, right? Because we're going to end up with 50 is still too high. We're going to do 15. So let's cancel, because the way this works, 15, right? 15 here, and then we'll just say because as holograms go, we'll make sure that it's got information and data on it. So when you're looking at it, you're like, oh, okay, so it's, the hologram is saying something. Okay. Red line work is set up. We don't need that anymore. I do feel like we should put a Tropic of Cancer, or not a Tropic of Cancer, but a polar island. Both sides. Mercator projections. Never trust them, guys. Just saying. So we're going to save this now as holograms. So JPEG. Call this moment system error moment. Did it do it? It did it. Okay. So now we can take this. What we're going to do is this. The surfaces here. This. It's okay. I know. This is hard for you, and I get it. And when we do this, now we have moment as it should have been, or as we assume it should be, and where it really is. Right, so you can kind of give a idea, right? So that when we do this hologram, we can do this. I can say, create new primitive. I'm just going to create a plane, accept. Then we take this plane. Then we say surfaces, and the diffuse color is that, and it's scattered, guys. Ambient color is also going to be that. Light, make sure it glows. We're going to take an opacity. We're going to take that and just do this one right here. Right there. Now, when we look at it, it's a system-wide issue. We can put moment here and the bake moment here. We raise this just a little bit. We don't need to raise it actually. Do we? And now you have exactly what we're looking for, right? This is the hologram that indicates what's going on in the system. Right? Now we have an actual hologram that reads moment is out by 54 days, 4 hours, 20 minutes, 8.204332 seconds. Right? The only thing we really do need now is a new sphere, because we need to indicate the star. Right, and that guy's going to be right here. And he doesn't need to be anything but cute. He needs to do his job and be a star. So we do surfaces on him. His ambient color will be yellow. Yellow star, or with a few yellow stars. The ambient strength is 100%. His diffuse color is also yellow. Okay, so here we go. Now when we render that, what we get somebody's map is screwed up, but they'll fix that. Anyway, that's how this works. And voila, we have that. We need to fix the map. This guy, his ambient map is different. That one. Now. Right, there we go. And that shows clearly that this is where we are. So, holograms, tell your friends, they're really cool. I don't know. Okay, that's it, guys. I'm OOH. I'll see you tonight. Same bat time, same bat channel. Hopefully I can drag Raph or Colton in by guilt. Guilt, I tell you, guilt. Bye, guys. Have a good evening. or good day. Have a good day.